episode of Post-Fades and Cheesesteaks. Usual suspects, myself, Dakota, Tim. No guest today. We're just going to run it old school. The dynamic duo themselves.
It's true.
Today,
I mean, it was short notice kind of thing. It was short notice. I expected to see your beautiful face in person at the link to watch this practice, but
this is true. We were set to attend the Eagles Open practice on Sunday for August 22nd, but they canceled due to inclement weather, which meh.
I haven't seen any rain yet. I haven't seen any rain yet.
It definitely rained, but I get it. You don't want to. There's no reason to really risk the players getting hurt over a practice. So, but yeah, that's unfortunate. It would have been fun to attend because I was going to try and go live with the on the Instagram, give people a little POV of what we're looking at here. But
it's a shame.
It is what it is.
It's a shame. But yeah, what are you going to do? I was looking forward to it because it was going to get me real hyped for the season. Like, I don't know if it's just, last year ended so poorly or there's a lot of uncertainty with this year. Like, I don't feel like I have the normal level of excitement or maybe, just COVID nonsense. But I was looking forward to this being the day that got me hyped up and ready for week one.
I mean, I'm pretty hyped. And I think you're feeling that way because you don't know if the Eagles are going to be good or if they're going to suck. So they're literally a coin flip team this year, if I had to put it in the simplest terms.
I would definitely agree with you there. I'm like, not that I don't want them to be good. I would love for them to be good, obviously, but I don't know if I have the same optimism that's been floating around with everyone else. I have major concerns, and I just worry that a lot of the concerns I saw from last year and kind of how with the offseason went. I'm nervous. We'll put it that way.
Real quick on the Patriots-Eagles preseason game. So it was a weird game because the starters didn't really play at all. It was some starters played and it was a mix of second string, third stringers with a few starters. And then that's why the score was so, 30, it was 35-0 or something. It wasn't, it was not a good game, but
it's a preseason game. I'm not too worried.
Oh, no.
Regardless of what the score is.
No, I'm just, laying it out there. That's why it looked so bad. But I got to go to training camp on Tuesday of that week, and they looked a lot better in practice against the Patriots than they did on the game. And that's because there was a lot of the Eagles, honestly, their wide receivers and skill players won a lot of one-on-ones. I was seeing them just flat out win. The receivers were winning one-on-ones against corners and safeties and stuff, and the running backs looked good against the line. And that's where my optimism comes from. That it's we're a young group of players who there's definitely potential there. So
I agree. Listen, the weapons are you have a young, stable weapons. That's probably the best you've had in the last couple of years, and there's real promise. There's real hope that you can have these players develop into something. Give Rager another year. More importantly, give him a year where he's across from a guy that hopefully could be your number one in Devontae Smith. You hope Goddard makes another step forward, and we'll see. Maybe Fulgham catches the lightning bottom like he did last year. But listen, it's better than what you've had. Not saying that that's much of to go off of, but it's better than what you've had.
Yeah, and I don't even know what the starting lineup's going to look like because I've been hearing that it might not even be Fulgham on the other side. It might be Quez or Rager, and then slot would be then Quez or Rager, whoever's not the two. So
listen, I'd be all for that. Quez look good. I mean, obviously Fulgham was dominant that stretch, and he looked a little bit better than Quez from last year. But if Quez is out there balling, give him the chance. I hardly would say Fulgham has earned a starting job outright. Let him compete.
Yeah, I mean,
let's see how it works out.
I think he's had a good camp. I don't think he's necessarily impressed. I bet he's one of those players that just looks better during the season than he does in practice. But I did get to see that Jalen Rager one-hander, and it was disgusting.
And that's what you want to see. You need a big step from him.
We need him to do that he needs to get at least one-hander in the regular season for that to even mean anything because they were practice. But I will say that he caught it in the corner of the end zone. He had to turn around, caught it one hand it was almost Odell-esque.
Oh,
it was a very nice catch over the corner. So, but we'll see. Moving on. I know Tim, you wanted to mention real quick on the Phillies. Did they win today? I saw they were up to like 7 runs.
They did win today. They pulled it
held
out.
on.
You know,
7-4.
it was a little. Yeah, it was 7-1 going to the ninth inning, and then Falter came in, loaded the bases. They cleared the bases. Neris actually came in and cleaned that up. Yeah. Listen, I mean, the pitching hasn't been the problem the last couple of games, as it has been most of the time. They can't hit. I mean, having Hoskins come back today was really nice. He put up 2 home runs.
That's good.
But Gibson was incredible again. And it's a shame they didn't win yesterday because Nola was pitched really well and just a poor luck. 2 outs in a game where you've only given up 1 hit and they hit a 2-run homer to tie the game on you. That's pretty tough. He was dominant throughout the game too. I think he had a perfect game or no hitter at least till the 7th inning when he gave up that solo home run. Yeah. But listen, it's nice that the pitching is looking good, but this hitting is atrocious, and they still have issues just doing stupid things. They can't field. That game where Nola gave up that game-tying 2-run homer in the 9th, they went on to lose in extra innings. Just Andrew Knapp is continuously showing that he doesn't deserve to be on an MLB roster. The guy can't hit, and he can't even field either. I mean, I think they scored it a wild pitch, but I definitely think that was a ball that Andrew Knapp could have gotten. To walk off on a wild pitch pass ball is just disgusting. So it's very tough. They're as frustrating as you always thought. And they're, it's the Phillies. They get successful for a little bit. They go on a little hot streak, and then they do something horrific to bring you back to earth. But it was good to see 2 out of 3 of the Padres. You should have swept them, but it was good to see them get back to winning ways after they embarrassed themselves and got swept by the Diamondbacks last week.
I mean, I don't know what do we got? Like 3 weeks of games left? Maybe.
Yeah, we still have all of September. So we still have a whole month.
They have time, but they need to win, I would say, every series from here on out. They got to take at least 2 wins.
They just can't afford to be this inconsistent. They went on a hot streak. They won, I think it was 8 or 9 in a row. You lost you got 1 out of 2 against the Dodgers, which is fine because the Dodgers are the best team in baseball by far, so you can live with that. But you can't get swept by the Diamondbacks because then you're winning the series against the Padres.
Especially when the Diamondbacks are the worst team.
They're awful. It's awful. But it takes away from winning this Padres series because all the thing is you're just trying to, get your head above water because you were so embarrassing at the Diamondbacks. So it kind of hurts. They just need to stay consistent, and they keep doing these dumb things, but the pitching looks good. The starters have been great. Wheeler, I mean, honestly, is making a very strong Cy Young case. Nola's here or there, but Gibson's looked very good. Kennedy's looked good since he's come over. I think Archie Bradley looks really good coming out and those safe situations in that late inning reliever guy. Yeah. Your pitching is the best it's been in a while, I would say right now, and you just can't hit. So hopefully Hoskins coming back clears that up, but we'll see. It's gonna be, I get excited and they break my heart. There's something stupid.
I'm not trying to get too. I mean, I was pretty hype in August, but I'm trying to bring it back down because I'm just looking at the standings now. I mean, you have the Giants. Giants are leading the NL, and then you have the Dodgers, who you said one of the best teams, are in the wild card with 78 wins. That's more than double the Phillies. Well, more than 10.
What the Giants are doing is just it's idiotic, and it hurts that it's Gabe Kapler.
Animals.
Gabe Kapler is over here using his analytics that we all made fun of him for, and he's got the Giants aren't a good team. They lost 100 games I think last year. They are not a good team. He does not have a good roster. He's just over here putting in guys he has bench guys that are going to have 3 good games entire season, and he's putting them in the exact moments when they need to have good games, and it's mind numbing. Because he tried to do this year, and it didn't work at all. And he went to a worse team. I definitely think the Giants roster is worse than the Phillies, and he's just killing it. The Dodgers are by far the best team in baseball, record, or not record-wise, but just roster. They're juggernauts. They're the defending champs, and they only got better. And they're not even in first place in their own division. Gabe Kapler's got the 100-loss Giants from last year playing the best baseball in the major leagues. It's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, right now, so the Phillies are behind. The Braves have been on fire. They're 9-1 their last 10.
That's tough.
What is it? 4 games above the Phillies right now? 5.
Sounds about right.
And then the Phillies are 6 games behind the Reds for the last wild card spot. So it's not looking great, but
you're not getting the wild card. This is going to come down to winning the division because the division is terrible.
Yeah,
and I know the Braves are hot
right now.
The Braves are hot, but let's see them keep it up because they've had some tough injuries. Losing Acuna really hurt them, but they have a good roster still. We'll see. It's gonna be gonna be a nail biter. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's for sure. But all right, it's enough Eagle specific and Phillies
Philly
talk.
love, little Philly love.
Philly love. So today's episode, since what are we 15 minutes in already? We'll be talking about the top 10 edge rushers heading into the 2021 season. So last year we had defensive ends and outside backers in the 3-4 defenses ranked separately. And this year we decided to combine them because they're essentially playing the same role. And I got to tell you, it was a very, very tough list. Probably the most amount of talent besides the wide receivers that we've had so far, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, so much so that I actually had to do on my honorable mentions, I had to break it up into young guys and vets because I just couldn't go without mentioning some of these players. So I'll let you go first with your honorables, and then I'll swing by with mine. So we got.
That's good. All right, so my honorables, there was a tough list. Like you said, this was, since we did split it into episodes last year, this was tough because we put them all together and there was a lot of good players. So I have 5 honorable mentions. Since you had 6, I thought I wouldn't be as ridiculous and at least get 5. You know, you always like, let's take it to the nth degree. But my fifth, my first honorable mention, he was a guy that I gave a lot of crap to, but he played on a bad defense. He showed a better year, than last year with the slight improvements to the pass rush, but he's still an incredible pass rusher in this league. I think he just needs more help around him. DeMarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys is my first honorable mention. He's a guy that's always been in there. He had that big year and got paid out of it, and he hasn't really been able to find that success again. But the team's really bad around him, especially on defense. They don't really have any other pass rushers around him, and he's been gotten double teamed since that big year.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm moving on to. I'm going. This is my favorite. This is my favorite guy. Like when we talk about NFL, we'll do an NFL preview. He's a guy, man. I'm excited for. He's making slow improvements, but even when he came out of college, he was a first-round pick. He was one of those. He was like a boom or bust prospect when they were talking about him when he was coming out. Wasn't really technique perfect, but he was athletic, had potential. He's got a long body. He's got speed. He's just pure pass rusher. He's already got 16 and a half sacks over 2 years. That's an limited, he doesn't miss any time for games, but for injuries, but he doesn't really get a lot of playing time. He's just a rotational guy. I think this defense is improving with some other young guys like Jeremy Chin and Derek Brown specifically, who's playing on that D-line with him. My guy who I think at 22 is going to break out this year is Brian Burns. I like him a lot, man. Look at 7.5 sacks and 5 tackles for loss his first year. Then he gets 9 sacks and 8 tackles for loss the year after that. The defense is getting better, and he's a big part of that. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
I went teammates on my next honorable mentions because it was tough to pick between them. One of the best pure pass rushers. Another guy who kind of reminds me of Brian Burns. Okay. He's just that pass rush expert, and he works perfectly in this role because the Buccaneers have such a loaded defense that they can use Shaq Barrett in a rotational role as a pass rush, specialist. So Shaq Barrett came in, and then the guy who, he's dominant. He's the reason that Shaq Barrett can play in a rotational role, and that's Jason Pierre-Paul. I thought he had a renaissance with the Buccaneers. He's a great run defender. The Buccaneers have been a great run defender since Vita Vea and him have showed up. Both are really good. Sometimes I put them back and I kept them together because I think that playing with each other helps a lot. And like the couple other guys that is on that defense line, it reminds me of when the Niners went to the Super Bowl the year before, and it was just so loaded. It reminds me when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. Yeah. They had such a deep defensive line of quality players. It was a nightmare because they were so fresh and kept on coming at you. So then my last honorable mention, and this guy's number 11. This was the toughest one. This is the one that just got kicked off. I've loved him since he left Baltimore. I think I remember telling you, I would watch the games, watch those YouTube recap of NFL games, mostly for like fantasy, try to see if there's any guys I'm missing. And I was like, dude, who is this random dude with the name that begins with Z with the Baltimore Ravens? And why don't they let him play more? And even when he was with the Ravens, and he was a free agent that year, and I wanted the Eagles to get him. He got paid with the Packers. But I think he's given them everything they could ever dreamed of. And Zadarius Smith's my number 11. Guy's a stud. Like he is a top 10 edge rusher, I just couldn't find room for him. Like he is top 10 caliber. I'm curious on because he was the toughest one to leave out. Is he in your top 10?
He is.
Okay. See, and I won't hate that. He was the toughest one to leave out. And I would have, honestly, I could have put him up pretty high, but he did just make it. I like the other guys. Yeah. I like him, but there's other guys that I've either done it more consistent or I like their situations and I like their potential more. I'm sure you're going to have two guys that I hate already outside of your top 10, and that's why Za'Darius Smith's in your top 10. But that's more of you hating guys that hasn't played in the league for 10 years. But go ahead. Tell me who your honorable mentions are, mister. I have 6 honorable mentions.
I'm really intrigued by your list now because I'm shocked that you don't have Shaq Barrett in your top 10. That's because you loved him last year.
He was number 5 for me last year. And you know what? It wasn't anything against him. It was like, it goes back to what I was saying. Like the defense line was so good. Like they kind of just asked him to be a rotational pass rush specialist. And where the year before he was kind of more in a dominant, like he was a 3-down guy, but nothing against him. It didn't really hurt his game. It's just, there's so many talented players in that D line that they kind of could rotate him out. So I did bump him down a little bit just because he wasn't in really a 3-down role anymore. And the other guys I have, everyone on my list is a 3-down role guy. Okay. He's never been a great run defender. He's more of a pass rush specialist, where they think the other guys on my list are more complete. It's tough. Again, I go back to what I said about the Niners when they went to the Super Bowl and the Eagles when they went to their Super Bowl. You're talking about hard to find a top 10 guy maybe in those situations because everyone's just rotating and making plays constantly. It almost hurts you because the other guys are so good because you're just you're not getting as many opportunities. And for him, he didn't need to. And he was excellent. Talk about a guy, you can bring Shaq Barrett off the bench, fully recovered to go rush the passer on 3rd downs. That is something to envy. That is something that any team wants.
Yeah. Well, my so I broke mine in. I have 3 young guys and 3 vets because like I said, this list was honestly, this might have been harder than the wide receivers list. There's just so much talent. We probably could have made a top 20, honestly.
Yeah, at least the top 15.
Yeah. So I'll start with the Young Bucks. Last year at number 9, I had Bradley Chubb. I think he's still going to continue to have success. I think he's still – I don't know if he'll really fully take over that Von Miller spot just because he hasn't really cemented himself as this top 5 pass rusher we were hoping he would.
I mean, you're also talking about a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's tough to – those tough shoes to fill
I know. But I'm saying that's his – those were his expectations. It is very high expectations, but I thought he'd be a little more advanced by now, but I also think Von Miller being in and out with injuries has also forced a lot of pressure on him and getting double teamed and stuff. So, but speaking
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Speaking of, unfortunately, there's a lot of uncertainty with Von Miller. So I had him as an honorable mention this year.
Wow, that's I don't know. What uncertainty exactly are you talking about? The injury that he suffered?
I mean, he had a pretty bad injury. He's
the only one of his career.
33, 34 now.
I
don't know. I feel like a lot of, besides a couple exceptions, there's a lot of linebackers that I feel like with those kind of injuries don't rebound when they're in the 30s. So, I mean, I hope he could easily be top 5 again. And I think he's still phenomenal and demands attention.
He's 32. He's never missed a game.
He's number 11.
But he never missed a game in his career besides the suspension. That was it. And then there's this injury right here. Like you're talking about when he was on the field in 2019, he was still producing. I don't know. I don't like that because I'm high on him. Why would you not think that this guy's going to come back? He's going to be playing across from Bradley Chubb. I think what disappointed me about Bradley Chubb, and he did fall off my list from last year, was that he did nothing when Von Miller got hurt. I mean, Von Miller, when Chubb got hurt in 2019, Von Miller's obviously a little older and, he didn't have the best year of his career, but he still was solid. He was much better than what Chubb was without Miller. I still think you're disrespecting Miller too much. He got hurt, but the guy's never been hurt before. I think he's going to bounce back and be fine. It was an early injury. He'll be all right.
I mean, I had him at – that's why I said it was tough because I had him at number 3 last year in the past.
Oh, yeah. You can't drop him 8 spots just because he got hurt. It's not like he was bad. He didn't play.
Listen, This is the U card right here. There's a little bit of a question mark, and there's some younger guys who are just, I think, gonna have better years. I mean,
I don't know about him. When you're saying there's a question mark. He's the most consistent player you're talking about. Like game in, game out, he dominates. I love the fact that he's gonna be playing across from Chubb this year. Yeah. I love the secondary that the Broncos just built up with Simmons, Fuller, Surtain. I think that defense is gonna be pretty good. And man, I wouldn't be surprised if Von Miller bounces back to like his prime year. I know he's older, sure. I'll hear that argument, but this isn't a guy that gets hurt. One guy I left off my honorable mention list who's similar is J.J. Watt. Now, J.J. Watt's not bad when he plays. Yeah, he's not bad when he plays, but he does miss time consistently. Von Miller missed 1 year. Bad injury, I get it. He missed the year, but he plays. He doesn't have lingering stuff. I'm not really worried about him missing games forward. And when he plays, he's very good.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this much. I mean, we have seen a bit of a drop-off in his numbers the past few years. And I think this injury, it's not going to help him, you know? And what happened with JJ? JJ was the Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald. He was the undisputed best defender in the league. And then once he started getting injuries, they started to pile up. I'm just going to go with the latter and say that he won't be as productive as he's been in the past. I hope he is. I hope he's still phenomenal because I love watching Von Miller. Easily one of the best pass rushers I've ever seen, you know, since I was able to watch football.
I think he's in such a good spot, too. I think the Broncos will be nice this year. They're going to have a nice secondary. And Chubb is, you know, you just mentioned how good Chubb is. Yeah. Chubb's right there going to play across from him. Wow. I think it's a good situation for him. I think even if he is getting older, you can't double team him because Chubb will eat you alive. And I think the secondary is going to give him a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, hey, we'll see. I'm surprised. You love your veterans, so I'm very surprised he's not even in your top 10.
I know. So yeah, that was tough. He was number 11. I mean, I had him in for a while. Another guy I had at my honorable mention. So I actually had penciled in at 10 for a while, and I thought you would have had him in your list was Brian Burns. You know,
yeah.
I don't really have to go into everything you said is true. I think he's like on the verge of just breaking out into this like perennial like top, you know, edge rusher in the league. So I wouldn't be surprised if this year he comes out and has like top 5 numbers. I think he could be.
Oh yeah. Good. Oh, I'm very like when we do our season preview, I'll get to him. I like that defense a lot. I like the Derek Brown. I think is a very good player who's going to help him get, you know, have less pressure.
They have some good pieces.
I like Jeremy Chin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're building it up. They're doing it the right way. And he just needs to play. They don't play him. It's not like he misses time because injury. He's just not on the field. He's kind of in that, what I said about Shaq Barrett is Shaq Barrett kind of moved into a pass rush specialist role, and Burns has been that his entire career. I don't understand what else you want from this guy to do to get more playing time.
True. And then my last young guy, who we'll have mentioned like this entire defensive line, you know, since we've done our top 10s now, but Montez Sweat of the Washington football team, I think is also on the verge of being a phenomenal player. He already had a good year last year. But yeah, I think that Washington line's terrifying. Like they have a lot of talent. So he's good. And then as far as my vets, so I already mentioned Von Miller. Another guy that I think this was just like a personal thing. Cam Jordan, I didn't have in my list. He's been consistently one of the better defensive ends in the league since he's, you know, been in the league. Like he'll always give you, you know, pretty consistent numbers every year, pretty good. I mean, he's tops in like, you know, QB hits, QB pressures and stuff like that. I just think I've definitely seen him decline the past 2 seasons. So I think he's still, you could put him in the top 10. I wouldn't argue it, but he just missed mine. And then I just wanted to give a quick shout out. So this guy probably would have been like 15 if we did top 15. But Brandon Graham, I feel like we didn't talk about him at all last year. But he's had like normally players like him at his age at defensive end, like, you know, they get worn out, lose a lot of production, and we've seen that a lot. And I'm going to be honest, I think in hindsight, he was the better selection than Earl Thomas, even though we all hated it. Because I think you're looking at where Earl Thomas is now, he's not on a team. Had a lot of problems with his teammates. Whereas Graham helped us win a Super Bowl, has been a phenomenal leader on and off the field. And I actually didn't notice before. I mean, I knew he's one of those like players that you look back when he's, retired and everything, and his stats aren't going to be, the sexiest thing you see because he was a quiet. I don't know if quiet's the right, but you know what I mean. Like he wasn't a numbers guy. He would just get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
But so since 2014, Brandon Graham has 445 QB pressures, which is fourth behind Von Miller, Khalil Mack, and Cam Jordan. Pretty good company. Very good.
So, very good company.
Just wanted to give shout out to Brandon Graham, our fellow Eagle.
I like Brandon Graham as well. Yeah. I wanted to make an argument. This list was too tough. I mean, I love Graham. Nothing against him not making it. There's just it's a tough list to make. Now, you did have an excellent transition there, because one of the guys you just mentioned on your honorable mentions, and a guy you just mentioned in that stat with Brandon Graham, who was slightly better than him in that regard. I went with a number 10, and I'm very surprised you didn't have him because that's a Dakota player right there. He's a veteran of the league. He never misses times. He's never missed a game in his entire career.
Yeah.
Leader, linchpin to what that defense does. I'm a little hesitant on how good that team in general will be this year, but there's with everything going on. But I have Cam Jordan at number 10.
Okay. It's funny you say that because I've actually never liked Cam Jordan as a player.
See, his
personality just rubs me the wrong way.
This seems more personal because I think he's got such an easy top 10 argument. Like I said, he doesn't miss games.
Yeah.
His sack numbers
fits in the top 10 fine. Like I don't have a problem with him being, 10, 9, 8, 7. So
yeah, his sack numbers were slightly down for what I think it was 7.5. But if you factor in, like everyone knows Cam Jordan's awesome. He's gonna get double teamed every game.
Yeah.
Look at the other players around him. Look at Troy Henderson, who was one of the top sack leaders from this year and signed a huge contract with the Bengals. You don't think that Trey Henderson benefited from playing across from Cam Jordan? You're nuts. Cam Jordan gets double teamed and other guys stepped up, and that's a big part of his game. He was number 8 overall for PFF as edge defender. He was number 86 in run defense. Now that's the versatility that you want to see. Hey, that's, top 10. He was number 4 overall in run defense. And this is also a guy that has multiple years in double-digit sacks. So
yeah.
The defense still got talent. Lattimore's still there. They got a couple of the guys in the secondary. Demario Davis, who we mentioned, our linebackers. I still think they'll be okay. I think the offense is where my concern is with the Saints. So I think Cam Jordan's still in a good spot. And the guys, just super consistent. Never misses time.
Fair.
You're getting 16 games from him every year. You know that. So I like Cam Jordan. I like him a lot this year too. So who do you got number 10?
Fair enough. Before we get to my number 10, just want to say, what are we drinking? What are we drinking? We're like halfway through and we haven't even said what we're sipping on.
Oh, so I remember my 12 Variety pack from last week.
Pack.
I was a little slow this week. Yeah, so I had 2 of them. Well, this was leftover. So this was the weird one. Because like I said, there was 12 different beers in this thing.
Juice Shack.
Tropical Milkshake IPA.
Oh, so what did this taste like? I'm curious.
It tasted more IPA than it did milkshake. I would say it was a little heavier than a normal IPA, like a little creamy kind of feel to it in a weird way. So I guess that's where it gets his milkshake
creamy IPA
vibe to it.
Sounds gross.
It does sound gross. Yeah, I can't say I was super excited for it just reading the name, but it wasn't bad. It was like a heavy citrus IPA. And then this one is,
you say strawberry or whatever it was. You say milkshake and beer. I instantly think of like a stout, like not an IPA. IPA is the last thing I would have thought of.
I would agree. I mean, the whole thing doesn't make sense. It's 3 words that just don't connect. Like tropical milkshake. I don't really know many tropical milkshakes. I just call them smoothies.
True.
So I don't know. But what about you? What do you got?
I got Yingling's Oktoberfest. It's already, I walked into the beer distributor and I was like, I don't want any pumpkin beer. I don't want any fall beer yet. And then that's all that you see. Like as soon as you walk in, that's all you see. And I was like, fuck. All right. I've never had Yingling's Oktoberfest. Why not? That's pretty good. I mean, I like it. I like the Oktoberfest. I like the pumpkin beer stuff. Tastes good. Tastes like the fall. So I'm down with it. So
fair enough. Nothing like dog days of summer, August day, and drinking some October beer.
Yeah, it's all right. Anyways, so my number 10, and this hurts me a lot because he's one of my favorite pass rushers, and he's in the same realm as Von Miller, where I don't know where to put him because I don't know what I'm going to get. And now that I'm thinking about it again, I wish I could move him up again, but I'm going to keep him where it is.
It's idiotic that you had him that low. I'm just
number
saying,
10. I have Chandler Jones, of the Cardinals. Yeah.
Okay.
It was tough. I just
So hold on. I don't mean to cut you off. So again, you took two of your, I think Von Miller you said was number 3.
yeah.
You took two of your top 3 guys last year and moved them out, like basically either at 10 or out of the top 10 all in general.
Vaughn was
only
11.
because they didn't play. That's all. Like they both
had,
got hurt. They just
had,
didn't play.
But they both had
guys
season,
are very consistent throughout their career too.
They both had season-ending injuries. Okay, and they're both in their like almost mid-30s. It's definitely a cause for concern. But I should have factored in more of the JJ Watt, I think, into this because I think he's going to help Chandler get back because he won't command as many double teams. And like I said, I love Chandler Jones. I mean, him and JJ Watt are like the number 1 and 2 in sacks since they both entered the league. And we obviously talked last year about why Chandler was our number 1 because he had 19 sacks in 2019.
He was
All-Pro.
Awesome.
He was very much awesome. But he played in 5 games last year, had 1 sack, like 10 tackles. So I'm not saying he's going to drop off huge, but he's in the same boat with Vaughn where it's like, I'm going to play it safe and say that they're still really good players, but they're not going to be as phenomenal as they have been while they're still recovering from. Because you got to think, just because you rehab an injury doesn't mean you're going to bounce back and be 100%. Your body has to get used to that conditioning too, and the feeling of getting hit and running into people and putting pressure on it. So I think it might take time. So I think they might both start a little slow, and that would impact their stats and how they finish. But both could easily be top 5. If you have Chandler and Vaughn top 5, I'm not going to give you shit because they can be that good. So
I'm just saying that whenever you go out of the way to say if I have 2 guys you ranked really low in my top 5, you wouldn't give me shit. That's usually you saying I made a mistake. Now please educate me on where I made a mistake. I'm telling you, like these guys are 2 elite talents and they don't have injury history. And Chandler Jones never missed a game when he's been with Arizona. Like JJ Watt getting hurt.
He has now.
Well, yeah, 1 injury. I mean, I hear what you're saying with their older, not mid-30s. They're like 32, 31 or whatever. But these guys are elite pass rushers who had a big injury, but they were both suffered early. This isn't a late injury that they have to recover, short term. They had all season last year and the off season. Yeah, but you know what? They've been elite athlete for a while. They can get their body in shape. They know what they're doing. I think you're selling too low on these guys. I think you're reading too much into the injury.
Which is funny because I'll get into. I always do my rankings.
I know. I'm surprised.
You're finally listening. You're taking my advice.
Well, no. Here I have actually perfect transition because my number 9 is a guy that's also coming off a major injury. He did not play last year, but man, when he was playing before, he was awesome. Now he's a younger guy, so I'm curious to see where you ranked him because now I see you shitting on the older guys that had 1 major injury. Yeah. But he did have a major injury. He missed all of last year. But the 2 years prior to that, in 08 or 18 and 19, he had a combined 29 sacks. He was a Pro Bowler both years. He, like Burns, started out as just a rotational guy, pass rush specialist. And then in the last 2 years before the injury, he really got in his full-time role. He was in a great system with Mike Zimmer and that Vikings defense across from Everett Griffin. Things changed. But you know what? I'll hear you on the injury. He's 26 years old. He showed elite pass rush ability when he's healthy. He had the injury, but he's never been hurt before that. It's a big injury. I am worried about back injuries, but he's young. I still like he's still getting better. So I went with Danielle Hunter at number 9. And then that was a tough one because taking a guy, this was where Zadarius Smith was the toughest part for me because putting Hunter, who I think has a higher ceiling than Smith, but I'm seeing Zadarius Smith get better. Like he was good when I saw him last year with the Ravens, but he's been much better with the Packers. He's improving. I still think Hunter has a ceiling we haven't seen yet. I thought he was ready to step into his own as one of the elite defenders, and that injury killed, that hope. And then look at the defense. The defense fell apart without him. They had no pass rush.
Yeah.
So I think it was almost to the Dak effect, like when we were talking about when we did the quarterbacks. He got more valuable when he missed time and you saw what happened around him. I think this is kind of what boosted up Hunter into my top 10. But the guy's awesome. But I am curious to see where you had him because he's a guy coming off injury and he's younger than both the guys you already mentioned, but he's not had the success or consistency.
So I think when we get to our top 3, we're going to have a lot of similarities. But between there, I didn't think we would have any matching picks. But I actually have Daniel Hunter at number 9.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
For everything you mentioned, I think if he give him fully healthy, let him be fully healthy, I think he could be top 5. He's got the skill set. He could be an animal this year if he stays healthy. So
I find that interesting. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Obviously, we got him ranked in the same spot, so I'm not going to kill you too much.
Of course.
But like I get it, and he is younger. But like, first off, I think of the three of them, he has the worst injury. I don't like the herniated disc. I think that's the hardest injury to come back from.
Sure, but I think you made a point about him being 26, 27 versus,
sure.
33,
but still,
34. So.
I mean, Chandler Jones, we're talking about, I think it's a bicep injury. I'm not worried about that. I think it's an ankle injury with Vaughn, like really not too worried about that.
Ankle injuries look at JJ. He had knee and ankle injuries. And
JJ also had back surgery, so he's had a little bit of everything.
He's a walking cast.
See, the back injury is what I worry about. I don't know. I mean, Von Miller and Chandler Jones have had a higher ceiling and more consistency than Daniel Hunter. I get that he's younger, but
yeah.
It's the injury that scares me. I mean, he is a top 10, top 5 edge defender, but that herniated disc does worry me. That's a tough injury to take. JJ, after the back surgery, never really covered. Like, that's when he really started falling apart. The bicep and the ankle I can live with, even if they are older. But I'm interested that we matched. My number 8, though, and I'll still keep the ball rolling here. My favorite number, actually. And this is a guy I'm curious to see where you have him, because he's a young guy, so you probably hate him. But I might get some shit because I have 2 young guys ranked back to back, and I might get a little crap for who I have ranked ahead of the other guy.
Okay.
But they were teammates in college.
Okay.
They're a year apart.
Oh, interesting.
This guy, obviously, it was his rookie season. Already went to the Pro Bowl. He's defensive rookie of the year. Had an incredible impact. 4 forced fumbles, 7.5 sacks. Throwing 10 tackles for loss, 12 quarterback hits. You already mentioned this team and how much depth they have on their defensive line. He is the leader, though. They had a whole bunch of first-round picks on that defense line before he showed up and just changed everything.
Yeah,
he's a guy that's going to be. He was a can't-miss prospect coming in, and then he exceeded all expectations. It was awesome. So my number 8 is Chase Young, and I mean, I don't know what else you want from him. Like, I think he did exactly kind of what we wanted. Like, Kyle Pitts was the can't miss. Kyle Pitts and Trevor Lawrence were the can't miss guys this year. That was Young last year, and he was dominant. He came into a great situation. Let's not get it twisted. That defense line was very good, but they took the next step to the best defense line of football when he showed up, and that's what they were missing, an impact defender like that.
He's been one of besides like the quarterback position, I would say he's one of the only players I've remembered in recent memory who's like played like the number he was drafted. Like, he was taken 2nd overall. He's played like the number 2 pick. Like, he played number 2 pick that rookie season.
I don't want to throw anything off with your pick, but my number 7, you could say literally the same exact thing about him, because he's also. I kind of
guess that's who that was, but
yeah, and that's more. You honestly, between the 2 of them, that's why I'm curious to see where you have them, because I have a more personal bias, I think, to my next guy, and he's another guy like Burns. I think he's going to have a huge year, but again, they just kind of came in and dominated right away. Great situations, but they are menacing players that I think are going to be a problem for the rest of this league.
Yeah. So my number 8, and this is a player I'm still surprised wasn't on your list, and I have to preface by saying that last year I lied to you. Okay.
You always lie to me.
Last year, I said when we did these rankings that this player, if he has more consistently good years, then I'll move him up my list. Well, I fucking lied, because he's still number 8 this year.
See, because it's all you do. It's all you do. You don't reward anyone. Your lists have no merit. It doesn't matter if you have your career year. It doesn't matter. It's whatever he's feeling that day. That's what Dakota makes his metric about.
Flip of a coin. But number 8.
And what can I say? Year early instead of a year late. But go on. Tell me how right I was.
So last year my number 8 was Shaq Barrett, and this year my number 8 is Shaq Barrett.
Okay.
I was surprised you didn't have him, because I thought you were gonna grind on him again like you did last year. But he does benefit, and I've said this hundreds of times, like I did with my Vita Vea exclusion from top defensive tackles, and when I talked about with David and White, that Buccaneers defense, they benefit off of each other because of how much talent there is, how strong they are. I mean, I never would have even considered Jason Pierre-Paul for this list if not for that. Like he was a pretty damn good defensive end with the Giants, and then he kind of disappeared for a few seasons. And he's like last year, that's why I wasn't like super opposed that he made a nomination for you. Like he did have a good year, and he did make an impact on that playoff run. He's actually, I saw a stat, he's actually undefeated in the playoffs. He's like, 12-0 or something. I forget.
He's got 2 Super Bowls.
I don't know if 12-0 is right, but yeah, he's never lost, which is that's a pretty awesome stat to have.
I would agree with you there.
But yeah, so Shaq, let's see with these stats. Number 1 in sacks, and number 1 in tackles for loss, and number 2 in QB hits over the last 2 seasons. I thought, that big year he had was going to be just not a one-hit wonder, but I didn't think he was going to, be able to do it again. But he got paid, and he still, still produced, still had a good year. Obviously wasn't 19 or whatever sacks he had that year before.
Oh, yeah, he didn't have to be, though,
Yeah, but no, he is still a phenomenal player, and I think he deserves top 10. And, he came from the Broncos. Like I said, had a good year and then didn't fall off after getting the bag, still came out and played. So
his situation helped him. He did have a good year, but obviously it wasn't the 19 sacks or whatever he had the year before. But the guy's awesome. It's just his role changed. He wasn't the 3-down linebacker he was before. And that was just because the team got really good around him. He didn't need to be. He still, he had 8 sacks. Like he was still a menacing player. He just wasn't out there all the time. He didn't need to. And that defense was awesome in general. So you like to punish people for being a part of a great defense and around awesome talent. See, I like to recognize that great defenses are made up of great players playing together. So sure, he's got great talent all around him, but he's part of that great talent. So, that's the same argument we made with White, David, Vita Vea, JPP. You had Shaq Barrett a little higher than me, so I'll give you your comeuppance on that one.
If we were ranking like the Buccaneers front 7, I would go Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Devin White, and then Vita Vea, then Pierre-Paul. So that's why I had Shaq. That's why I had David ahead of White. That's why I have Shaq in this list, because I think they're all even though they do benefit off of each other, they're all really good on their own too. So
we'll see. I think they're gonna be very, very good again this year. So we'll see what happens. On to my next guy, number 7, and this is not a Groundhog Day deja vu moment. I will sound very similar as my last guy, but another number 2 overall pick.
That's right.
From Ohio State, a former defensive rookie of the year, immediate contributor to a very good defense. Great situation to be drafted into. He was a one-time Pro Bowlers rookie year. This year just tough. He got the injury, tore the ACL, missed the whole year. It was a week 2 injury, though, so I am very confident in him bouncing back very strong this year. He's had plenty of time to recover. We've mentioned, 20 ACL is not anything to ignore, but unlike the other guys that we talked about who were injured, like Jones and Miller, who had to deal with their age, and Hunter coming off a more serious injury, in my opinion, with the back.
Right.
I think Bosa is going to roll right back into form. The guy was awesome his rookie year. He was a big part of that Super Bowl defense. Buckner left, but they kept Armstead. They drafted Kinlaw, who looks very good. Bosa's still there. Warner's still there. There is talent on that defense. I think that defense in general makes a reemergence. He was the best player on the defense. They lost him. Warner, would be another tough player to replace. They lose their superstar guys. It's tough to build off that because it hurts everyone, especially if you factor in one from the year prior when they went to Super Bowl to the next year, they lost to Forrest Buckner, Nick Bosa, and Solomon Thomas, who also got hurt. So, you're talking about 2 all-pro guys and then another one of your rotational defensive linemen. So I think they'll be very good coming back. I liked him a lot in coming into his second year last year. I have no reason not to be excited from this year. I think he's going to be dominant. I'll say right now, I'll mention him on my season preview. I think you're talking about a guy that makes a strong contention for Defensive Player of the Year. I like the situation. I think he's going to really bounce back. He's in a good situation where, Chase Young, he's in a good situation where he plays with a ton of talent, but it's going to be hard to put up the numbers with that much talent around him. Like we were just saying with Shaq Barrett. Nick Bosa has talent around him, but I still think he's going to be the lead sack getter there. He's
like
going to
the same situation. Although Washington has a better line, I would say, than the Niners do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's going to be harder for him to maybe get some numbers just because there's going to be so many other guys competing with him. I think Bosa will have an easier time to get numbers, especially because I think Kinlaw is a budding superstar in the middle, and Armstead's kind of more of that interior player too.
Armstead I've never been high on, and I thought Buckner was the better of that line with Bosa.
Of course, but they couldn't afford Buckner. I mean, that's what it basically come down to. They got I don't kill him for that. They gave up Buckner for a first round pick and kept Armstead. Thomas is a bust, but he's a guy. He's a bust, but he's a body.
He's a body.
Yeah, exactly. He's better. I mean, he's one of those rotational guys on a very good defensive line, like he was when they went to the Super Bowl, and what he can be again. Is he going to be your star? No, but could he make some plays when Nick Bosa's getting double teamed and there's other guys helping him? Of course he can.
Yeah,
but that's my number 7. I'm big on Nick Bosa this year. Like him a lot.
All right.
So who do you have next?
So this is my second of back-to-back players you had as honorable mentions.
Interesting.
Like you said, a guy that I wanted the Eagles to bring in when he left Baltimore. But he went with the Packers and has had a phenomenal season ever since. So I had Zadarius Smith at my number 7. And I actually think he's going to have an even better year this year. I just think he's just improving season after season. He career high in pressures for him. I think the Packers defense has good players in certain spots, but it's not fully built for a Super Bowl run or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because, whenever you have Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, you're always going to have a chance in the playoffs. But I don't think this defense is quite ready yet. But, Zadarius Smith finished 5th in sacks with 12.5 this year. Played all 16 games, forced fumbles, over 52 hits, 23 QB hits. It's a lot. Not as much as, some of my top 3 players, but definitely respectable numbers. And like I said, he's still under 30s, so I think he's still going to get, better.
Yeah, I have no issue at all. He was my number 11, but he's right there. Like I put Cam Jordan ahead of him. It was Cam Jordan, Hunter, and Zadarius were my toughest ones to pick.
I think you had Zadarius Smith higher than me last year.
I had him at number 6 last year, and that's mostly because that was number 6 when we separated the positions. You bring in, guys from my other list, and he just naturally bumps them down. And he's awesome. He's an impact player. It really just came down to Cam Jordan's consistency and Daniel Hunter's ceiling, I think, are just a little bit better than Zadarius Smith. But honestly, pick the 3 of them, put them whatever order you want, no complaints. And I really have no issue with you had him at number 7, I believe you said, right? So no issue with that either. He's very good. I liked him since he got there. Mm-hmm. My number 6, and this is a guy that we've already talked a lot about.
Okay.
And this is where he should have been ranked. Because, he's coming off a major injury. Don't get me wrong, he's coming off a major injury. Okay. But he was my number 4th guy last year, and I thought it was fair to move him back 2 spots. Okay. I love that defense he's going to play for. You'll notice a trend with some of the guys we have on our list is they play on defenses that have a lot of guys around them that make their lives easier.
It definitely helps.
Of course. And I like his situation a lot because, don't get me wrong, it's not the no-fly zone, but that is a nice secondary they're building there. And I think Bradley Chubb, I don't know if Bradley Chubb's DeMarcus Ware, but he's a very good pass rusher. They have a very good makings of a good defense built around a superstar, and that's Von Miller. So my number 6 guy, my guy is Von Miller. Yeah, you got to. It's a young defense. Like it's a young defense. Chubb's young. Surtain's obviously a rookie. Simmons is still a young safety. But you're built around the superstar, and the superstar's Von Miller. Look at last year. The last year was a disaster for the Broncos. Obviously, their offense stunk. But I think the defense is going to be much improved from last year. And it's because you're bringing in a future Hall of Famer back into the fold. And I have no reason to be down on him. I can live with the ankle injury. You're idiotic to not have him in the top 10. Von Miller should never be in a list that isn't putting him in the top 10.
Like I said, I'm not going to argue against that because I wanted him in this list and I wanted Chandler Jones higher, but my list is more of a Tim list, honestly, the way it's going to unfold. But
I'm
injuries
shocked.
play a big role. And it's not like,
you move two guys that you had top three out of almost out of your list completely.
I mean, you had Mike Thomas at number 1 last year, and did he even make your list this year?
No, he was number 10. But you know what?
So 1 to 10, that's what I did. What do you mean?
Yeah, but you know what? But here's the difference. I am not nearly as optimistic on Michael Thomas this year than I am with Chandler Jones and Von Miller. They're both playing in improved defenses, and they're not going to miss time to start the year. I already know Michael Thomas is missing time to start the year. And he lost his Hall of Fame quarterback. Like, the defense is improved around Jones and Miller. The offense got worse in New Orleans, and he's already going to miss time. So, yeah, he was bumped down because I'm already not optimistic about his next year. Sure. You don't have any reason to not be optimistic for Miller and Jones, and for some reason
I gave you my reasons. Because they're coming off injuries where they missed the entire year, and they're in their 30s.
I'm not too worried. They don't.
Neither of them. Like I said, I want them to do well. They're two of the most fun players to watch on defense, but it is what it is.
We'll see. All right, go ahead. Who do you have number 6?
So number 6, this is where I have. So I'll do a little Tim action here. I'm going to give you a tease of my back-to-backs here. So these are this is where the two brothers come in for me.
Wow. Okay, I don't know if I like this one. At 6 and 5, you have the two brothers.
Mm-hmm. So number 6.
Oh, okay. All right. I can. Never mind. I was thinking a different set of brothers, but I can live with this. Go ahead.
Set of brothers. Well, all right. Let me say his name, and then you tell me who the hell you were thinking of. But so this is actually the brother I like more, and I think is going to have a better career in the long run. And like Tim, actually, you mentioned, I think he has a good shot of rebounding and being, in the discussion for Player of the Year. I got Nick Bosa here at number 6. And I didn't realize it from last year, but did you realize I had Nick Bosa at number 2 off a rookie season? Very out of character for me.
I was very surprised. I was very shocked.
But I do remember he's a player you watch, and awesome. He's very, very similar to another player I have on my list, where it's like one season was just like enough for me to know that he's going to be a monster for his career to come. His numbers from his rookie year were veteran starter level numbers. I mean, he played all 16 games. The 9 sacks is meh. It's still a lot, not as good as you might think, but 25 QB hits, and like you said, that line was pretty damn good that year. So there was a lot of people getting after it. Obviously his numbers aren't going to be as great when he's not the only player getting to the quarterback, but I just think his what did Michael Jordan use? He said that one time, the ceiling is the roof for him. I think Nick Bosa is going to actually surpass Joey at one point, but I really like his progress and what he's rebound fine.
I'll tell you,
he's a young player. What, he's 22. He's going to have a lot better time recovering from an ACL than Vaughn and Chandler. But
I'm just shocked that you're fighting for a young player here over a 10-year veteran. Things have changed very much. I'll say a little story because I'll go ahead. We do have the same number 5, so we get back to a little agreement here.
Oh, okay.
But when I was living in Orlando, my old roommate, he went to high school with the Bosa brothers down in Fort Lauderdale, and I remember him telling me when Nick Bosa was in college. Joey was already in the pros, but he was telling me when Nick was in college, they played together on the same football team in high school. And he's like, yeah, obviously both of them are just athletic freaks. They're 6'5", 250, they're super fast. They're NFL players just from birth. But he said Joey was awesome, but he was, he liked to party. He wasn't very much interested in the games. He didn't take it as serious as Nick. He said Nick was a student of the game, worked his ass off all the time, constantly wanted to get better, was constantly improved, he was locked into football. And kind of just seeing the way the career started, you kind of see it just in their attitude almost. It feels like Nick came into the league and he already was the leader of that Niners defense, where I think Joey kind of was benefited from having a guy like Melvin Ingram there to be the leader of the defense. For sure. And listen, this is a bad argument to make because Nick Bosa is coming off a career injury or a season-ending injury, I'm sorry. But Joey's also had numerous injuries, and Joey's had little injuries, the nagging injuries, the injuries that make you worried about his future going forward. And you think back to was that training? Are you taking care of your body as you should be throughout the off season? Where Nick probably is, Joey maybe isn't. Because that's my biggest concern with number 5 guy, and I'll roll right into it. Who we both have the same one, and I went number 5 is Joey Bosa.
Okay,
and
yeah, that's who I have.
The guy's awesome. Like, I can't say there are reasons to be hesitant with Joey Bosa. Obviously, the injury concerns, which I've mentioned, but also, he lost. Melvin Ingram left. I love the signing for the Steelers, and they were a dominant, bookend teammates together.
Yeah.
Is Joey Bosa more than capable to make up for the fact that he's gone? Of course he is, because he's an unstoppable player. But it's definitely helped him throughout his career, I would say, since he got in the league, to have a guy like Melvin Ingram on the side, a Pro Bowler just on the other side like that as soon as you walk in. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He was a rookie, defensive rookie of the year, just like his brother. He puts up the numbers. He's had such highs. He's already has 3 double-digit sack seasons.
Yeah.
I know there's the concerns, and I'm worried about missing Ingram, but this guy's still proven he's an elite pass rusher. That's probably is still getting better.
Yeah, and I think if you look at his numbers too, you see good volume even when he misses games. Like his rookie year, he wasn't even starting, I think, till like game 5 or 6. So on
he
paper,
held out for.
Oh, that's what it was. He was holding out. Okay,
yeah.
So he started 11 games in 2016, his rookie year, and had 10.5 sacks in 11 games.
I agree. You look at that, and that's where you're like, all right, you know what? Forget the injury, forget the missing, forget the fact that he fell out for a contract.
17 tackles for loss.
Yeah, just forget all that.
QB hits.
He's going to do that. He might miss some games. It might be a headache. Yeah. He's going to do that, though, so you'll be okay.
Yeah, but 3 Pro Bowls in 5 years, and he's cemented himself as top 5 edge rusher so far. So
you had him at number 5, right? That's what I was taking from them. Okay, all right. Well, that's good. All right, let me, unless you had anything else to say, but I think we wrapped that up pretty nicely because I need to get to this one. This is one of the ones I've been eager for. Von Miller was 1, but I correctly had this guy. He was number 1 for me last year.
Yeah,
he had a big injury, and that's what hurt his ranking, but I'm not foolish and bumped him all the way down to 10 or 11 or wherever you had him. So I moved him down to 4. He's an older guy, as you have mentioned. He's, what is he, 31, I think it is. But he's still a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's a 2-time All-Pro. He was, sack champion of the league. He had 19 sacks in 2019. Surprisingly, didn't have the league lead just because Shaq Barrett had that half a sack more. But like this goes back to kind of what we were saying with Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa was so awesome his rookie year. I'm kind of ignoring the fact that he got hurt last year. I think the defense is very good, or not very good, but it's improved in Arizona. Like what he was doing beforehand without much help around him was just incredible. I don't know how much J.J. Watt has left, but he's still a guy you have to account for. He's still a guy that can make you pay. And I think that's going to help Chandler Jones. He's going in his 31 season. I'm not too worried about the injury. It's a bicep injury. It's not really a make or break end your career kind of thing.
His 31st season again.
31st season on life.
Yeah,
that's their life seasons. I go by life seasons here. This guy, but still, this is an elite edge rusher.
Milkshake IPA
I'm consistent though. I said it last time. The milkshake IPA might get in you if you don't think that Chandler Jones is still going to be an elite pass rusher in this league.
IPA, so.
How many weeks? Let's say I would say 3 weeks until you immediately regret this decision when he has 5 sacks for 3 weeks.
I told you I want him to be that top 5 edge rusher, but I'm taking the glass half empty approach in that I don't think he will reach the glass half full, so.
That's foolish. I mean, I've always seen you as a negative Nancy guy who's, always looking at the glass half empty, but I don't know. He was easily the number 1. He was unanimous on our rankings last year, and he didn't even play this year. That's why you're going to move him to 10. I don't know, but go ahead.
It's because of how old he is and his injury, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
blah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. What's your number 4?
Yeah. So this is exciting for me because this is not a Dakota move here. But number 4, I have Chase Young off a rookie season.
Surprised.
A lot of the same thing why I had Nick at number 2 last year. I just, especially because we watch the Eagles and get to see the NFC East a lot. Like I'm already terrified of Chase Young as an opponent. Like he's just he's fast. He's strong. He's agile. He's athletic. He could probably play. I don't know how good his hands are, but he could probably play any position besides quarterback. Like I'm convinced he could block. I'm convinced he could, play wide receiver, running. He would be a terrifying running back.
He's a different species of human. He's just so athletic.
Yeah, he's a gifted human. PFF actually had him give him an 87.1 overall rookie grade, which was 5th best among edge defenders. And then his red zone performance was pretty damn phenomenal, 93.3 overall grade. That was a large part of why that Redskins, Washington football team, WFT, why their defense was so strong. And I think it'll be interesting to see what they do on offense with quarterback, because they have Gibson's a great running back. Pretty solid receivers. Yeah, we'll see how. Yeah, but Fitzmagic is like a, it's like a magic trick. Is it going to be good or is it going to be bad? We never really know until it happens.
That's true.
But yeah, Chase Young for me, like I made this list and then I was looking at it, I was like, I feel like someone's missing. And I was like, oh shit, Chase Young. And I was like, he was probably the hardest person to rank, because I thought should he be back end top 10 because he's only had 1 year. But then I was like, if I had Nick Bosa last year, number 2, because of how blown away I was by his rookie year, and honestly Chase Young equally as well blew me away, I got to have him up high. So I had him at number 4, and I think Chase Young could be number 1 next year. And I think he'll be in the same discussion for Defensive Player of the Year as Nick Bosa. So
I would agree with you there. I'm actually surprised that you had a rookie ranked much higher than me, because I had him at 8. I'm very surprised by that. So good for you. I'm glad to see that you're evolving. You're getting better. But yeah, I remember I would watch Nick Bosa games when he was coming on the draft. And my first instinct of Chase Young was, you'd watch Nick Bosa in Ohio State when he was in college, because everyone knew Nick Bosa. He was coming out that year. He was going to be a high draft pick. And then you kept on thinking, I was like, dude, who's this guy with dreads that is everywhere? And when's he coming out? Because I'm watching this game for Nick Bosa, but I can't help but to notice this guy with dreads is just constantly making plays. And he's been awesome ever since. Honestly, they mirror each other. They were both second overall picks. They were both Ohio State guys. They were defensive rookie of the year as soon as they came in. It'll be interesting to see how their careers play out with each other. Who went
number 1 that year in the draft?
With Chase Young?
Yeah, who went number 1?
Joe Burrow.
Oh, that's right.
Could you
Good luck on
that?
On you.
I
wanted to say Kyler Murray, and I was like, no, Kyler had 3 years already, or 2 years.
Correct. Kyler Murray was drafted with Nick Bosa. Look at you go.
Yes.
Into my top 3 here.
Okay.
Here's a guy. He's a perennial.
Hold on. Do we have the top? Do we have the same top 3? If I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yes,
okay.
I believe we do.
And this is what I said when we were at number 10. I said I think we have the same top 3. So
it'll be interesting to put them in order, because honestly, you could make a strong argument.
I don't think we're gonna have the same order, but
probably. So this is a perennial, all pro, Pro Bowl, incredible player. Okay. I feel like he's kind of, I have him number 3. You have him in your top 3, so it's kind of crazy to say, but I feel like he's kind of, lost some of the luster. People kind of forgot about him. He's kind of he's kind of yesterday's flavor for some reason, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
Six-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. He was named to the All 2010s Hall of Fame team. He's probably, I would say, he's the first ballot Hall of Famer already.
Probably.
The numbers aren't there. If you're looking at just the sack numbers, just since he's, the last couple of years, but we even mentioned this when we were talking about Roquan Smith. Is I feel like other players are developing around him. Mm-hmm. Robert Quinn laid an egg with the Bears last year, and that kind of hurt his, because they didn't have to respect anyone else besides for this guy. But he was one of 2 players to grade over 90% in overall defensive rankings, rush defense and pass rush for edge defenders from PFF. He was the number 1 run defender, and he was the number 1 defender for PFF last year. So. Yeah. His run defense is something that he's really developed on. I think he lost a little bit in the sack numbers, but the defense he plays on the run game is he's incredible.
Yeah.
One to put him a little higher, but I just feel like I feel like the other two guys I have ahead of him, I think could still get better because they're a little younger and they're still growing into it. Where Khalil Mack, not I mean, I would be surprised if he keeps getting better. He kind of reinvents himself every other season, whether he needs to be the sack guy or the run defense or just an all-around distributor. But Khalil Mack is my number 3.
Same.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's awesome. He's one of those guys like, what do you need to say? Like, he's just, the name. He's awesome. Like, that's all you need to know. He's one of the best defensive players in the league. And the only reason he's number 3, and I had him higher, but I moved it just because I think the other two are getting better, and I feel like they can get better, and I feel like they're maybe better right now as well, and that's why I'm a little more optimistic on the other two. But don't get me twisted. Khalil Mack he's throw him in the defensive player of the year argument that we're making for Bosa and Chase Young and them. Like, at any moment in the year, he could win defensive player of the year. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's still incredible.
Yeah, I also had Khalil Mack at number 3. And I think, like you said, at any point he can be the number 1 edge rusher. Like, he's that talented. He's
number 1 defender in football if he wants to.
Yeah. And he's a 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, like you said, Hall of Fame, all 2010s, team, 2016 Defensive Player of the Year. And one thing I actually didn't realize, I guess because he's, like you said, his last few seasons, he's been a little quiet. But he's pretty damn reliable. He's only missed 3 games in his, he played 7 career seasons.
Yeah.
So he started 16 games in all but one of those seasons. He played 14 games actually. So he only missed two games in his 7 career seasons so far. So, but he always puts up good numbers. Like, they're not, I think maybe a couple of times he was near like top 3 in a lot of stats, but he's more of he commands so much attention that he's like, I've seen him triple team before. Like, he's that good.
That's how you stop him. You have to.
I mean, he's been over double-digit QB hits every season. He has been under 10 sacks the last 2 years, but he had 9 sacks last year, 50 tackles, 13 QB hits, 3 forced fumbles. Like, those are still really good numbers. And like the whole fact that he needs to be accounted for, like that opens things up for Roquan. Some of the other defensive players.
Plays.
Yeah, so he's a great player. It's still weird, like the whole transition from Oakland thing. I feel like you'd want to build around a player like that, but I guess I'm not an NFL GM. So, but yeah, Khalil Mack, I think anywhere in the top 3, I think is fine because I think at any point he could be number 1. But I also have number 3. So who you got at number 2? Because this will be interesting then.
So number 2, he was actually number 1 on our defensive ends last year.
Okay. So,
and he's, again, this is my argument I made putting Khalil Mack at 3 is I don't think I've seen the best yet of my number 1 and number 2 guy. I still think they can get better. I think their ceiling is a little higher.
Right.
My number 2 guy though is Myles Garrett.
Okay.
Coming off an All-Pro Pro Bowl season, he had 12 sacks.
Yeah.
He's had double-digit sacks the last 3 seasons. He had 10 tackles for loss. 4 forced fumbles. He's a force in the run defense. I think he improved a little bit there. He's not the elite run defender that Khalil Mack is, but he's working on it. He's definitely an impact player. His pass rush grade was, a 90 percentile. Can't go wrong with that. I think he was the 4th highest pass rush grade in the league last year. And he plays on a good team. I think he's in a good situation. I like the addition of Jadeveon Clowney there. Clowney's a guy, like, he's good when he wants to play, but you just don't know if he's going to want to play or not. And considering Jadeveon Clowney's not going to be the guy anymore, he's going to be the guy across to Myles Garrett. I think it's going to be terrifying for offensive tackles.
Could be.
Clowney is, like we said with Chase Young, because Myles Garrett is in the same boat. They're just different humans. We're not the same. Me, you, and Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney aren't the same species of humans. They're a different human than me and you. They're built just a little bit different. Things at birth, it was determined whether they were going to have an NFL career or not, and that was when they were given the genes that they have.
Right out the womb.
Myles Garrett is one of those guys. I think he slipped a little bit. I think everyone expected the breakout year to kind of happen the year he got suspended, and then he had all the drama. He was very good this year, but I think he's going to kick the door down even more. I think Clowney on the other side is really going to help him. He's probably the best edge rusher he's had on the other side with him. And that's a defense on the rise. It's a team on the rise with the Browns. So I think he's in a good situation. I think he's only going to get better.
I agree. That's probably why I had him a little higher. But
Oh, interesting. All right. Fair
but
enough. Fair enough.
I mean, you can't go much higher than 1 and 2. But my number 2, and this was honestly like you can flip flop these guys like we're doing. This is just a preference. I like Myles Garrett a little more. But T.J. Watt, I had at number 2. Absolutely phenomenal player. I mean, I don't know if numbers wise he'll surpass his brother JJ, but he's already a better player than he is like at this current point. And he's I would argue the most important player on that Steelers team, defense and offense.
Oh, without a doubt, he's the best player.
He's already had 4 seasons, which is weird. I feel like he's still just got in the league like last year, but he 15 sacks last year, 20. So he had a career high in sacks at 15, career high in tackles for loss at 23, and a career high in QB hits at 41. 41 QB hits. That is insane. Awesome. 2 forced fumbles. He's just pass rushing monster. I gotta imagine he's in the backfield 90% of plays, just because of how quick and nimble he is, and that's the trend we're seeing. Edge rushers kind of go from where, early, history, before the 2000s was all big, tall defensive ends. And then, into the 2000s, we saw a lot more transitions into 3-4 where you had stand-up outside backers. That was more of a college thing, I feel like, before then. And now we're seeing like these super like lean, agile, quick, pass rushers who they still can get you with power moves, but they're utilizing the spin, they're utilizing, punching you off with their hands and stuff, and they're
just getting underneath those big old offense tackles.
They're like quick and strong. Is like it's how do you beat that? You don't. You just get beat.
It's very tough.
And that's why he was hitting the quarterback 41 times last year. He's a phenomenal player. I don't have any problem with you having him number 1, which I'm guessing you do since you haven't mentioned him yet. But who do you have at number 1?
I don't want to get. Listen.
I would hope. I mean,
I do. You know what? I do have Mr. who should have been the defensive player of the year last year, in my opinion.
I agree.
I feel like, Aaron Donald's one of those players you can give him the award any season if you want.
He's like when Tom Brady's in the Super Bowl, he just gets handed MVP. Like Aaron Donald just got handed defensive player. Obviously one of the best.
He deserves it. Of course, he deserves it. But TJ Watt, I thought, should have won defensive player of the year last year. Season. Oh my God, the numbers he was putting up was crazy. Well, first off, PFF wise, and I mentioned this with Von Miller and TJ Watt are the only guys to have 90 percentile in overall ranking, run defense and pass defense.
Yeah.
TJ Watt was second in all 3 of those categories behind Khalil Mack, who was 1 in all those categories. But again, it goes back to the fact that I just think TJ Watt's getting better. He's 26 years old. He'll be 27 years old this season. The numbers you put up, which you already mentioned, are just disgusting. You're talking about a guy who's increased the sack totals every single season. The last 3 years, he went from rookie year, he had 7, then to 13, then to 14.5. Then he led the league with 15 this year. The year before in 2019, he had 8 forced fumbles, which led the league. He's already led the league in forced fumbles and sacks in his career in 2 different years. That's just consistent dominant. He led the league in tackles for loss last year. 23 tackles for loss. Mm-hmm. That is a stupid number. The QB hits you already talked about. Insane. I think he's going to continue to get better. Like, the guy's so good. This was a hell of a breakout year from him that he should have got some awards from. But I think he can still improve and get better. I know that there's some concerns, and I said this with Joey Bosa when he lost Melvin Ingram, but Bud Dupree left. But let's be honest, the Steelers fell apart because when Bud left, the defense overall kind of fell apart. TJ Watt had 2 sacks the game Bud Dupree got hurt, and then he had 3 sacks the rest of the season, or 4 sacks the rest of the season after he got hurt. So it didn't really affect him that much not having him. I think Melvin Ingram's going to fill in that role perfectly. Tuitt's still there. Hayward's still there. Yeah. They just made the trade for Schobert. This team's loaded. I love the situations he's in. Everyone knew who he was coming in. They still tried to double team him. Didn't work. He's looking at another, I think, defensive player of the year conversation this year, and I'm excited to see what his numbers look like. He's incredible. I still think the best edge defender in football. Like, the numbers he puts up are disgusting. we talk a lot about numbers with edge defenders, and it's kind of funny because when we talked about Khalil Mack, we said the opposite. He's not always a numbers guy. TJ Watt is a numbers guy, and it's just disgusting the numbers he puts up.
Yeah, like I think Khalil Mack's career high for sacks is 15, if I'm not mistaken, which is as much as
this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he beats 15.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I knew right away my 1 and 2 were going to be Garrett and Watt, and then it was really just like my personal preference, honestly, at that point. So my number 1 then is Cleveland Browns defensive end Myles Garrett. I've loved Garrett since he got into the league. I think he's been, his rookie year wasn't the best, but it was still, very promising, a good solid year. And then from there, he's just become an animal.
He's incredible.
I mean, he played in only 14 games last year and still had 12 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 18 QB hits, almost 50 tackles combined. Like he is a force to be reckoned with. And like the scariest part is like I still see like things outside of football that he does that are just not, like you said, not human. Like just bench, like you see the video of him playing basketball like a couple months ago. He's just dunking on fools. Like,
yeah, are you going to play defense against Myles Garrett?
Yeah, he's literally built like a Greek god. First of all, second of all, they had him working out. They were using some kind of like pulley machine, and he broke the machine. Like this is an exercise machine people use that usually is constructed to withstand different kinds of weight and different kinds of strain. He broke it. He's just built different.
It's constructed for the human species that me and you fall into, not the human species that Myles Garrett is.
I don't think he's even human. He's from.
No, he's a different species of creature. I don't know what the name is, but he is not human because me and you are humans, and we are not like Myles Garrett.
No, so he falls in that like, I mean, he's from Washington. So rivals, but I really love watching Chase Young, really love watching Nick Bosa, and then Myles Garrett, like my 3 favorite defensive ends to really watch right now. So
I agree. I mean, when we're talking about like we kept on saying they were rookie defensive player of the year, with not Donald,
it's a trend.
Joey
Look at
Bosa,
them all. Like
Nick Bosa, Chase Young. But the thing is, with Garrett, he came into such a bad situation. Cleveland was so terrible.
Team. Yeah,
it was so terrible. So that year, like you mentioned, he kind of came out slow his rookie year, but. That year he didn't win defense player, have any awards or anything, but that team was terrible. He didn't go into a good situation like all those other guys. The team is now getting pretty good. And I think that this is the best team he's been a part of. And I think you're going to see a lot of, and that's kind of why those two are my number 1 and 2 is Tim and TJ Watt, is I love their outlook. I love their teams they're on. And I love what I've seen. I think they're only get better. TJ Watt's holding out for his new contract, which he'll get. The Steelers aren't going to let him go away. Myles Garrett already got paid. You're just talking you're just talking the nitpicking of a lot of a lot of money basically. But these are two guys that they're the next generation of defenders. They're part of that next wave. They're both young, like they're both in that Bosa's Chase Young kind of category, and I'm excited. But this is a good list. I like mixing them together. It was definitely tough. This was the toughest list we did because there was a lot of good players that didn't make this list. Yeah,
I mean that's like I said, that's why I had Chandler Jones, number 10, and Von Miller at 11.
I don't care what you say about how hard this is. That was still dumb. That didn't make any sense.
If they weren't coming off injuries, they would have been probably 3, 4, but
still
it's hard. It's hard to estimate that.
Fair enough. Well, hey, it's good top 10. I mean, I give Von Miller and Chandler Jones 3 weeks until they make you look like an idiot. They're going to go right back to being as dominant as they were before injury.
Fine. I mean, like I said, I'm rooting for them. I'm just trying to be realistic as I can be. So
fair enough.
But I'm surprised our top 3 was. Well, actually, you know what? I'm really not surprised. Our top 3 was the same.
Not surprised. Yeah, no, I'm not surprised.
And I did think you were going to have TJ Watt at number 1. So.
Oh, after the year he just had? Oh, hell yeah. And especially with how loaded that defense is. I know they lost to Pre, but they brought in Melvin Ingram, which was like, give the Steelers, man. You want to talk about late, off-season additions, bringing in Melvin Ingram and getting Joe Sherbert for a 6th-round pick, that is some your GM's not giving up or calling at the end of the day after the draft and free agent's done.
If I was the Eagles, I would have went and gotten Joe Sherbert.
Oh, those are 2 moves.
6th-round pick.
Man, those are 2 moves that are going to play dividends. The late free agent signing with Ingram and then a cheap trade. Those are going to be big, important roles. And the defense is going to be very good this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially after losing Dupree, I was a little worried, but they definitely made some improvement. I mean, I don't think any of those players are better than Bud Dupree, but those are definitely good additions
Oh,
to help.
Melvin Ingram can definitely hang. Like we were saying, I think Joey Bosa is going to miss Ingram. So
Ingram was in my top 10 last year, but injuries and production and obviously being on a new team that would factor that.
Yeah, and having the list together was tough. So, but hey, good list. On the way as always.
See you all next time for our next top 10. We got safeties and offensive tackles left, so we're getting through it, and then we'll have a season preview. So
Love it.
All right, till then, peace out.